We welcome you all here, and we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say. We don't have a microphone system, so just please stand up, tell us your name, tell us where you live, and try to keep your comments to as brief as possible, and try not to repeat what other people have said. You can just say ditto, and that works too. Okay? So, the floor is open. Sure.
Do you have to give your name and where you live like you normally do?
Yes, please.
Okay. Valerie Mahalik, Newtown Walk.
Yes, please.
Valerie, could you spell your name for me? I just
Oh,
have
sure.
minutes.
Mihalek.
And from where?
Newtown Walk.
Thank you.
You're welcome. My questions are in regards to the proposal for the Newtown Water Sewer Treatment Plant. Number one, how was the land condemned? I know you can't answer it, so please take it under advisement, as you said. And who condemned the land? Two, how was the land purchased for nearly $9 million or over $9 million? I hear conflicting things about how much the land cost without presenting it to the ratepayers or the Township Board of Supervisors. Three, why would you spend nearly $9 million or over $9 million on a piece of property that you weren't certain was acceptable to the ratepayers?
Thank you. Who's next?
I think just one comment, Jerry. Some of those questions and others that may be asked may be found on the website. There is some extensive, frequently asked questions and information pertaining to the project that are on the website.
Yes, please.
John Milkodansky. I live in Levittown, so I'm not a resident. Little information about myself. I have a degree in chemistry. I've worked at Roman Haas. I've worked for a water treatment facility and a company that worked on different processes. I also was on the board of directors of North Wales Water Authority. Also, currently, I'll get to you in a minute.
Could you spell it for me? It will only take a second.
LOP.
Thank you.
USZ. ASKI.
A-N-S-K-I.
More than a second. But the bottom line is that I'm also in environmental issues. I'm currently in the Middletown Environmental Advisory Council. I'm also on the board of directors of Friends of Silver Lake Nature Center. And my concern is with the proposed water treatment is the effluent. And the bottom line is where it's proposed to go is going to be a major factor with the chemicals which are going to overload that system. Now I have to say, why isn't it being directed toward the Delaware, where the major thing is dilution. Yes, it's going to cost more money, but I think in the long run, you're going to save a lot of money not paying legal fees, because I see in the future a lot of organizations attacking you on legal terms. I see Middletown environmental issues and maybe even a county approaching you and say, hey, this is just too much. So I would say QandA Fleming should maybe start thinking about heading toward the Delaware.
Thank you for your questions. Yes, please.
My name is Curtis Risley. I'm a resident of Newtown Township. I wanted to speak out about the rate increase that we were notified about in the beginning of October on our bill from the third quarter of 2024. It said effective January 2025, here are the new rates. Last week, I got my invoice for the fourth quarter of 2024. But the rates for 2025 have been applied to my usage in 2024.
Last quarter. Yeah. Okay.
So I don't understand how rates that are effective in January 2025 can be applied to something that happened in 2024. If your intent was to notify us that rates are going up effective October 1, that's what it should have said. I mean, I spoke to a woman in the office earlier this morning to see what gives. And she said, well, we bill in arrears. It's a January bill. I said, yeah, everybody bills in arrears. They don't bill you in arrears for a rate that is applied for January 2025. Not even PICO does that. So I would ask that you put some explanation on your website as to why this happened, or if it was a mistake, how you're going to rectify it. Because to me, it doesn't seem fair that you notify the customers of a rate increase that effectively takes place during the period you notify them of the rate increase. I mean, if I wanted to shut my water off to avoid the rate increase, I didn't have the opportunity to do that. So if this is how you manage a rate increase, I shudder how you're going to manage a $130 million construction project.
Thank you, sir.
My name's David Hardeski. It's Hardeski.
Thank you.
I too wanted to make comment regarding the planned sewer plant. One on a personal side, one as a representative for St. Mary's Medical Center, where I currently hold the chairman of Department of Surgery position. Chairperson Ellen, you've heard this already.
Yes.
But ultimately, you know, we are concerned about a number of things, including environmental effects on it. So on the personal side, I do want to go on the record that we continue to be concerned about the potential odor. The initial presentation that was completed at the December 17th Board of Supervisors meeting at the Middletown Township from representatives for the sewage plant suggested that they visited a facility in Kansas where they stood outside of the door and didn't smell anything, where we had rebuttal at the Board of Supervisors meeting where it was an individual that was involved in all of the sewer treatment plants in New Jersey who said that he doesn't disagree that you can stand outside of a sewer treatment plant and not smell it, but it's not a question of whether or not it's going to smell. It's definitely going to smell. The question is when and how bad and what radius it will reach. So that's a big concern, which kind of ties me into our concerns from St. Mary's. Now I have discussed this with both the CMO, Dr. Ed Odell, and the CEO, Dr. Mike Magro from St. Mary's, and he wished for me to express concern about the effects of the environmental areas behind St. Mary's, Court Creek Park, and Lake Luxembourg, as well as the foul odor. I did discuss this at the Newtown Board of Supervisors meeting earlier in January, that our concern is that, and this is again in no way a suggestion that St. Mary's is in financial dire straits, but every hospital system right now is struggling still to recover from COVID, and that patient volume is something that drives that propeller. And that if we have a substantial drop in our patient volume, it will be difficult to continue to thrive as our regional medical center. And our concern is that the smell radius that has been proposed does include the property that's currently the home for St. Mary's. And we're worried what's going to happen. I don't know if anybody's interested in having an elective joint replacement done if the area around that joint replacement sells like human waste. So that is certainly something I would like everybody to keep in mind. And that's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Hardeski, where do you live?
I'm sorry, I live in Stonebridge in Middletown, Stonebridge Court.
Okay.
Just one comment, if I may. I don't believe we have any proposed radius of smell that's being generated from someone else, and we will eventually have that, but we don't have anything like that at this point.
I'm John Mack. I'm a Newtown resident. I live in Stanford Place. I heard from the Middletown supervisors meeting, I think it was last night, and they discussed the procedure that the authority has to go through because they're hiring environmental attorneys. I don't know if you know that. And he discussed the process by which he thought you would have to go through. And I'm wondering, I would request that we get more information on the process to establish, well, how long does this whole project take? Because you have to go through these stages. And one of the stages he recommended, or he mentioned, was going to the Department of Environmental Protection and getting information from them about the effluent limits. And we don't know anything about that, but, you know, we would appreciate to know when this meeting might take place with the Environmental Protection Agency and whether residents could attend that to learn more about what the Environmental Protection Agency really requires. I think somebody quoted something from the Levittown News. I don't know if I read it there, but there was an article about the EP, the Environmental Protection Agency has no regulations regarding PFAS in effluent. And I'm just assuming, and I don't know if this is true, I'm assuming that a sewage treatment plant does not remove these forever chemicals.
Well, yeah, okay.
And, you know, that's what I'm assuming, but I'd like to know more about that. I know people talked about the nitrogen and phosphorus, phosphates, and those are the things that the Environmental Protection Agency, I heard, will have limits on. I don't know if they've established new limits or not. But then there were other things that were mentioned to me by an engineer at last night's Newtown Environmental Advisory Council. He was talking about the Act 537. And at some point, the attorneys at Middletown said you have to get that revised. And I needed to know, well, this is a Newtown issue, and whether the Newtown supervisors have any input on a revision of the Act 537, because I remember it was revised lately back in 2020, I believe. And I believe we had a resolution that we had to pass that favors that revision. And whether that's something that will happen again if another revision is necessary, because I understand that that document says you can only use the Neshaminy Interceptor, or whatever you call it. That says nothing about any new plant in this location. So basically, the timeline is something that I would be interested in seeing. You know, this is probably my final year as a Newtown supervisor. I don't expect anything to happen in the coming year, but I think it'd be interesting for the residents to know, you know, how long this is going to take and why and what's going to happen. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't post everything, every single thing that happens in the meetings, but we have, what's our ballpark timeline, just as?
Yeah, it was about 5 years, I think, start to finish. I can, you want to
Which will
address
be
anything on the
updated.
Act 537 plan or not? I mean, just to note that if you're correct, Mr. Mack, it would need to be revised, and the borough and the township would both be involved in the process for revising the Act 537 plan if the authority were to switch its method of wastewater treatment and disposal.
And there has been,
That was briefly addressed in both presentations to the township, to Newtown Township, to the borough, and to Middletown Township.
I'll have to look that up. Thanks.
and there were three sections at least of your comments mentioning EPA. Primarily, we deal with DEP at this point.
I'm sorry, the wrong agency.
And yeah, they will obviously regulate everything.
We haven't submitted anything to DEP officially yet. We haven't submitted, because we're not that far along in all of this.
Right, but I
But we
mean,
do, it will be public.
we're asking our Environmental Advisory Council to do some research, and so we have to know, well, where should they be looking, especially for environmental concerns, basically.
And I guess I'll just note that any formal application to DEP would require what's called an Act 14 notification to the Newtown Board of Supervisors, to the Planning Commission, to the County Planning Commission. And that is an opportunity to review preliminary documents, provide public comment to DEP. So there's a long process that would make public comment period available and require formal notification specifically to the township where the project is proposed and the County Planning Commission.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Comments, questions? Okay, well, in that case, I will close this section of the public comment, and we have a second one scheduled later on. If somebody else comes in, or we think of some other questions they may ask. Okay? Is that